Imagine a train capable of 125 miles per hour, with a diesel engine underneath almost every carriage, designed to provide intercity speeds on routes where there aren't any overhead wires. Meet the British Rail Class 222 Meridian, one of Britain's most distinctive modern diesel trains, and a machine that has spent more than 20 years racing between London and the Midlands. But why was the Class 222 built? Where did it come from? Was it actually any good? Has it been involved in any serious accidents? And now that new trains are replacing it, what happens to the Class 222 next? Well, let's find out. Our story begins in the early 2000s. At the time, Midland Main Line operated services from London St Pancras to destinations including Leicester, Derby, Nottingham and Sheffield. The railway was changing rapidly, and Midland Main Line wanted modern trains that could provide fast, comfortable intercity services while helping replace older rolling stock. The answer came from Bombardier Transportation. Bombardier had already produced the Class 2 20 Voyager and the tilting Class 221 Super Voyager, and the Class 222 was essentially a further development of that family. So if you think a Class 222 looks suspiciously like a Voyager, that's because they're very closely related. You could perhaps describe the Meridian as the Voyager's slightly more sensible cousin. Midland Main Line ordered 23 Class 2 22 trains, originally consisting of 16 4-car trains and 7 much longer 9-car sets. The trains were built by Bombardier and entered passenger service in 2004. And Midland Main Line gave them a suitably impressive name, Meridian, which certainly sounds better than Big Fast Diesel Train number 222. The Class 222 is a diesel-electric multiple unit. Instead of having one large locomotive pulling the entire train, diesel engines are located underneath the vehicles. These generate electricity for traction motors, which actually drive the train. The result is a lot of power spread throughout the train, and these things can certainly shift. The Class 222 has a maximum speed of 125 miles per hour, putting it firmly into Britain's high-speed intercity category. Its combination of powerful acceleration and high top speed made it particularly useful on the Midland Main Line. It could accelerate quickly away from stations and then settle down to some serious high-speed running. Compared with traditional locomotive-hauled trains, the Meridian could get up to speed remarkably quickly. But the original plan for the fleet didn't quite work out as expected. Those enormous 9-car trains had partly been ordered with a proposed new London to Leeds service in mind. Unfortunately, that service never materialised. So Midland Main Line suddenly had some very long trains without quite enough work for them. The solution was wonderfully railway-like: take them apart and rearrange them. Vehicles were moved between units, creating different train lengths that better suited the services they were actually operating. Eventually, much of the fleet settled into 5-car and 7-car formations. There was also another group of Class 2 22 trains. Hull Trains ordered 4 4-car units known as the Class 2 22 Pioneers. These entered service in 2005 and operated between Hull and London King's Cross. Their time with Hull Trains was relatively short, however, and by 2009 they had joined the rest of the Class 2 22 fleet on the Midland Main Line. When the Midland Main Line franchise ended in 2007, the trains transferred to East Midlands Trains. Then, in 2019, they passed to East Midlands Railway. And this is where the Class 2 22 really established itself. For years, the Meridians became a familiar sight at London St Pancras, racing north towards Leicester, Derby, Nottingham and Sheffield. Sometimes they operated individually, while at busy times 2 units could be coupled together to provide additional capacity. For passengers, the Meridian offered air conditioning, first and standard class accommodation, and a much more modern environment than some of the trains it had been introduced to replace. But they weren't universally loved. Having powerful diesel engines underneath the passenger accommodation means you're never going to achieve the almost silent environment of a modern electric train. There can be noise, vibration, and that unmistakable diesel rumble beneath your feet. And when a busy intercity service turns up formed of only 5 coaches, finding a seat can occasionally become something resembling an Olympic sport. But from an operational point of view, the Class 222 proved extremely useful. It was fast, flexible, and capable of operating long-distance services without requiring overhead electrification. And despite more than 2 decades of high-speed operation, the Class 222 has generally maintained a good safety record. There have, however, been several notable incidents. One particularly unusual event happened in June 2006, when a door on a Class 222 opened while the train was travelling at speed near Desborough. Fortunately, nobody was injured, and an investigation identified a combination of problems involving the door locking system and software. A much more serious incident happened on the 20th of February 2010 when Unit 222005 was travelling near East Langton in Leicestershire when an axle fractured, causing part of the train to derail. The train had been travelling at around 94 miles per hour. Even more remarkably, the train remained upright and continued for approximately 2 miles before eventually stopping. There were around 190 passengers on board, along with 5 members of staff, and despite the potentially disastrous circumstances, nobody was injured. Investigators concluded that the derailment had resulted from a complete axle fracture associated with problems involving an axle bearing and final drive system. The same Unit 222005 had another unfortunate encounter in February 2016. This time it struck a conveyor boom that had been left obstructing the railway at Barrow-upon-Soar. The front of the train was badly damaged, although thankfully the driver escaped serious injury. There have also been occasional fires and other technical incidents during the fleet's long career, but considering the enormous mileage these trains have covered, their overall safety record remains respectable. So what about today? Are Class 222s still running? As of 2026, yes, although their long career with East Midlands Railway is approaching its conclusion. East Midland Railway is introducing the new Class 810 Aurora fleet. Unlike the Class 222, the Class 810 is a bimode train. That means it can use electricity from overhead wires where available, while also having diesel engines for sections of railway that haven't yet been electrified. And that makes much more sense for the modern Midland Main Line. The Class 222, by comparison, has no ability to use overhead electrical power. Even when travelling underneath perfectly good wires, those diesel engines continue rumbling away beneath the floor, so as the Class 810 Auroras enter service, the Meridians are gradually being replaced. But that might not mean the end of the Class 222. There have been plans for displaced trains to find further work elsewhere on Britain's railway network, meaning some Meridians could potentially have many more years of passenger service ahead of them, and perhaps that's fitting, because the Class 222 has quietly become one of Britain's most successful modern diesel InterCity trains. It hasn't achieved the legendary status of the InterCity 125. It isn't quite as famous, or perhaps infamous, as its Voyager relatives, and it hasn't transformed Britain's railway network. Instead, it has simply spent more than 20 years doing what it was designed to do, running fast intercity services day after day, year after year. And perhaps the Class 222's greatest legacy is what it represents. The Meridian could turn out to be one of the final generations of pure diesel trains specifically designed for 125 mile per hour intercity operation in Britain. The railway is increasingly moving towards electrification, battery technology, and bimode trains. Ordering another large fleet of pure diesel, 125 mile per hour passenger trains today would seem extremely unlikely, which means the Class 222 could eventually be remembered as one of the last great British high-speed diesel multiple units. Not quite an HST, not quite a Voyager, but very definitely a Meridian, fast, powerful, flexible, and accompanied everywhere it goes by the gentle soundtrack of several enormous diesel engines underneath your seat. So what do you think about the Class 222 Meridian? Is it one of Britain's most underrated modern trains, or would you still rather travel on an old-fashioned HST? And where would you like to see the Class 222s operating once their time on the Midland Main Line finally comes to an end? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this look at the fascinating story of the British Rail Class 222 Meridian, please like, share and subscribe to Trains for more railway history, driver's eye views and fascinating stories from Britain's railways. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you on the railway.